On the live stream. Honorable admiration, all my good brothers, sisters of the fellow. Hopefully you can hear me. I want to do this real quick before my good brother Supreme Chief Holiday goes live. I wanted to explain something. The misconception of collecting data without assessing, having the capability of divesting the time in knowing who wrote the information. There's a misconception in information, which I totally understand because I had the same misconception until about 2000 and let's say about 2019. Which one I'm gonna use? Oh, West Coast. I'm gonna put a lot of my jams on here. Man, what's this? Oh shit. Got the old school 80s West Coast jam too. Okay, so here's a prime example. What you see on the wall here, this is why you do not trust anything they say. Right here, they are writing the hieroglyphs on the walls. So if somebody comes to me and says, I got this information from this wall on this hieroglyph, and I'm like, I don't trust that because the Orientalists created that hieroglyph on that wall. And they say, well, are you saying that they created all the hieroglyphs? That's called a pseudo-argument. And a lot of people make these pseudo-arguments. I've been dealing with pseudo-arguments for about 7-8 years. Really since Kemet on trial, when people were upset, and I started debunking everything. So what happens is I had a great deal of conversations with a lot of elders, 70s, 80s, 90s, Walter Williams being one. And when we started talking about printing presses, he was one of the main people that was pushing the information about printing presses. And I did a lot of study on printing presses. I would say, what year was that? 1994, when I took typing in 7th grade, we learned the history of typewriters and presses. And so in 1994, I already had the knowledge that everybody has about printing presses. Removable, movable, different fonts. When diacritics was added to it. And, I've had that information going on 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. But it wasn't until Kemet on trial, which I was involved in, but was not participating in a debate, but involved in one of the so-called biggest social media debates on the internet, that we were missing a great deal of information. So I presented the story of the Inkunabula, the Tabula, the Abula, the Bula. I was the one who introduced this information to give a greater understanding that words were angelicized. There was angelization, and they put the dates of 1501, and they said that Inkunabula means swaddling baby cloth and all these different things to kind of give you the wow and awe, because it's talking about when presses are first used, when it went from block form to just a wood block to press, where each press is the exact same way, to removable type. So I've been dealing with this for 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. But about 8 years ago, I discovered that when I went to go dig into that information, I could not find empirical data. So when I found that out, I put out the Oriditu information about the alphabets and all the different alphabets that they were claiming were being put together. And so for a good 8 years, I've had the understanding that all those presses and all those things were lies. Thanks to having a father that, like I have, that I was able to acquire a great deal of information concerned that is concerning to these subjects. So I know 2 things: that if somebody is claiming that something is written or pressed out from a period of time that is close to Inkunabula, which is 1501, that if it's original, they had no space button. Instead of a space button, they had the letters COLON. Okay? But here goes the second part to that. That did not happen in 1501, and Inkunabula did not happen in 1501, that these are things that actually happened after 1860, when the AIU got their hands on the printing press. Before that, people were writing out what they were saying, and when they did not write and use the letters the way that we did today. If you go on my channel, I give a complete dissertation, hypothesis on English grammar in detail, a good 30-minute long in detail, that we did not spell these words or write these words in these ways that we do today, that we do have a starting date of these words being spelled and used the way they are today. And you have a period that starts really of 1911, which is why I use no encyclopedias or dictionaries. I trust no Noah Webster dictionaries or anything. I would never use that as a source. I use a Rosette Thesaurus, because it's going to show you that they were taking words and changing them, changing the meanings of them, and changing how you spell them. This is a period that was happening from 1890, and it was completed in 1911. Whenever somebody writes a book, whenever somebody publishes a book professionally, they have to use a Rosette Thesaurus. They're not using encyclopedia. They're not using Noah Webster. They're using a Rosette Thesaurus. When people write movies and they do screenplays, they use a Rosette Thesaurus. The reason why I can decipher movies better than a lot of other people is because I studied Rosette Thesaurus intensively, sober, for many years. So with the knowledge of 30 years of understanding type, removable type, and different presses that I had the privilege of understanding this information. That's why I will never say Gutenberg press or the press that King James used. You'll never hear me say that, because I discovered that it does not predate the AIU. That's why, although I did read and had many private debates with Baba Walter Williams in his 90s about this, with his great deals of travels all around the world while acquiring information, not just sitting somewhere or typing a button with access to a computer, but actually traveling to these places. He taught me something about communicating with people from these places when you acquire information about these places. If you are not going that far, then your information is stuck. If your IP address is in America, your research and information is not going to give you the totality of the information. You can go on the dark web, it's still not there. You're using an IP address from America. When I started Black Lotus Society in 2008 and started doing blog talk shows in 2000, I had people who lived through these things and saw the changes of these words. That's the reason why I can always pull up who coined that phrase. So if I see somebody with a book and the word scientist is in there, I know that Wilhelm coined that phrase. So you can't tell me that the word existed before Wilhelm. When it comes to these words, they have dates. They have dates that they're coined. They have original wording, sounds. Then you're dealing with stuff being pressed. So I feel that this is it's a complication going on here with a lack of understanding of how to collect data. When I did my thing on Coptic, I literally went by empirical data only. And I made sure that I read that where it said, this is not an empirical data. This is a primary. Primary is not an original. It's not handwritten. It's not even a good source. A secondary is even worse. There's other phrases for other ways of collecting data. But I've talked about this for too many years. Although my channel was taken down where I had all these videos on them, where I'm to the point where I feel people should pay me because I'm going to teach you something you don't know. So in French in 9th grade, which would be, the typing stuff was I'm a good 30 years because that was 1993. 1995, I took French. In 1995, when I took French, I learned that words with the letter Q, like Quran, is a French word, a French creation. The word, whenever you see two C's, that it's French. And when it's French creation, it's connected to the AIU. When it's French, when it's Catholic, when it's Jesuit, it's AIU. They're all Royal Society, the same people. They're the ones, the Royal Geographical Society are the ones who did the naming of the lands according to the laws of nations. So, being that I still have these records and this information, and I will sit on this information because I'm no longer putting out stuff for free. There's a debate going on about Morocco, but on this channel, me and Supreme Chief Holiday debated Cujo, founder of what the hell is it called? The Candyland Moors out there in Canada. We already showed and proven that even when you're dealing with the treaty, the so-called Moroccan and American treaty is not in it. It's Arabic. They're using the Arabic words. They did not use Morocco and they did not use Moor. But I kept it hidden that actually the records are not from that time. So when I start showing these coined phrases that words did not have ED at the end, they had a diacritical mark and then the letter D in the 19th century. So you have a whole lot of records that will have ED at the end. Then instead of the word over, you have the word O, a diacritical mark, and just ER. So if your information in your books I'm just saying, if it does not have that, or that funny looking S symbol, then it's not from the date. In those books that have that, they're gonna say that this book and this writing is from a time from the 12th, 13th, 14th Nkunabula period. But really, it's a press that was created in the 19th century. Okay, we had presses out here in America. If you get a small nation of people, you will find what type of press we use. So this is just to uncomplicate a thing. As simple as this. The way that the people who were creating these schools, which is the AIU, over there in Morocco, and they're showing you stuff in Arabic, and they'll say that Arabic was used for all these years. That is a fallacy. Tamazight Amazigh did not use Arabic until after the French came in. They had their own script and their own language, their own nation. Their own script. It do not believe any example. If I tell you, hey, we're gonna learn the history of Zhongguo, you will not know what I'm talking about. But if I tell you, hey, we're gonna learn the history of China, you will know what I'm talking about. But then if I tell you that the history of Zhongguo comes from the people, and the history of China comes from German Jesuits, you're gonna have to use on your own. Sweden really using Agassiz breakdown later, which people will call Tobias or Tobia, which became Ethiopia. This is the problem. This is the problem. It's a misconception and a confusion. So all I'm saying is, all these titles suck. All of them. So I don't know what to tell people. If you believe in all this history stuff and you haven't investigated the way I have, it's not your fault. So I don't blame the person, but whenever I look at a person's sources, it's always gonna say something recent. If your information comes from the Library of Congress called Bunch of Records, 99 put the information, and I'm glad that I have these books now that I can start showing people, nah, man, that's not how the word is spelled. If they're spelling the word like that, that's incorrect. If they're using cursive, it's definitely incorrect. If they're using Arabic, it's obliterated. It's obliterated. Arabic is not ancient. Cursive is not ancient. This stuff is not 200 years old. This stuff is recent. It's modern. And that's just something that people have to deal with. That's just something people have to deal with. And that's just for me, y'all. I'm going to be getting off. Good. Brother Supreme Chief Holiday will be going live soon. Get it in. All right, y'all. Enjoy. Yes, sir. That 1980s, 84 feeling. Early 90s. find something decent, man.